I'd like to call this work session to order 2 minutes early with a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Grattan.
Here.
Brian Tobin.
Here.
Scott Latham.
Here.
Tom Kennedy.
Here.
In the event of an emergency, all these visitors may exit through the one side door which leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked to move away from the building and do not attempt to leave in your automobiles, since this may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
So tonight's work session is going to be dedicated to the prohibition of the use of internet-enabled devices by Southold students on school grounds during the school day. On the 9th of May, the governor signed a budget about a month ago, and in that budget, there were numerous different legal ramifications. One of them was a requirement to create this policy. When it says internet-enabled devices, it includes smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, or any other devices enabled to connect to the internet. So your old-fashioned flip phones that get cell service but no internet are legal, and pretty much everything else that would be used is not. There are numerous different exemptions for students that have medical needs, like monitoring glucose or things like that, for educational uses, for all sorts of different things. The trying part of this is it was May 9th when this was put out, and by August 1st, we're required to have a policy posted on our website in place. We are required to do numerous different things, so the policy is actually easy to write because most of it is dictated by the legislation. So we do have a draft policy that we're hoping, that was shared with the board, that we're hoping to share with our community when we do our first read of it and propose it at the next meeting. We have had the opportunity for our building administration and myself to meet and speak with parents, meet and speak with kids, meet and speak with teachers. We've done that in both of our buildings throughout the last really couple of years. We are still collecting information from them. All of that information that we receive has been utilized in putting together a policy and a practice for how we're going to engage. So by August 1st, 2025, we will have to have an adopted written policy posted on our website. And it must include numerous different things like where they're put during the school day, what type of exemptions are there, and how you would get them. When it is a school day ban, so it is only from starting bell to closing bell. Before and after school is not part of it. At lunch, it is not part of it. So when our kids leave campus at lunch, they are allowed to take their devices with them. And then again, like I said, there are reporting requirements. We have to report how many instances of students being disciplined for having cell phones and the demographics of the different groups. We have to do that every September. A report has to go on our website. I can tell you that in Southold, historically, we have not had a lot of issues with cell phones. When they have been used when they're not supposed to or out, and teachers have asked students to put them away, students have politely put them away, so there were not disciplinary consequences. We've only had a couple of write-ups in the last 3 years. So I think that this will give us an opportunity to try to teach our kids to be more responsible when it comes to the internet and social media and interactions over the internet, and hopefully give us an opportunity to teach them to engage better with their peers and engage better with the adults in the building. So at this time, I am going to ask that if there are any community members that have any input that they would like to share, you can either send it to your building principal, who I'll be meeting with regularly, as I have been over the last 5 weeks since we found out about this, or you can send it directly to me. We do appreciate everybody's input. Our student input was really the most meaningful to me, and I have to tell you that I would say that the large majority of our students felt it was a good idea to not have phones out during instructional time in school. I don't know if they fully agree with locking it up for the whole day and not being near it, but I think they were extremely reasonable. And this was from third grade students that I met with up to 12th grade students. They were very reasonable about the fact that they, unless a teacher needed it, they really shouldn't need to have a phone out. So at this time, if the board would like to give any input, I'll be jotting down notes, and then I will hopefully get a policy to you next week for us to do our first read at the next meeting.
This seems to track right along with the law, which was published at the end of the month. The only problem I see is really the parents. I have to be able to contact my child. And I know we should probably address that in the phone tree here at the school, because I've had a few frustrations where I'm calling in, if you know your party's extension, and if you don't, there's no, I haven't called in a while, but there was no index or directory of the extension. So there should be, I have to be able to contact my child. Well, here's the number that somebody will always answer.
Mhm.
But, yeah, it looks good to me.
We're also, we're working with Parent Square, which is our mass communication. Parents have the ability to communicate with us and us with them in multiple languages through that. But they're looking at Parent Square, as I should say. They have communicated that they are looking at other options and the possibility of kids using Student Square to communicate with parents if they choose to with their Chromebook. I don't know if it's going to be a possibility, but they've talked about looking at it. So that might create other options that are more comfortable for a parent, but also not as intrusive in a classroom.
And of course,
Plus they'll have it at lunch.
Mhm.
So,
but I think it's going to boil down to the culture of enforcement. If somebody's walking in from their car, talking on their phone, they're on school grounds, yes, but really,
Yep. It's in my opinion, it's going to come down to relationships, which is what our entire business comes down to. If our relationships and our expectations are reasonable, once you walk in the building, you put your phone away, and the reality is, we're asking our students on the elementary school not to bring them in. Now, there are kids on the elementary school that after the school day, they go to different places and they need them to contact their parents. What we tell them now is, it gets put in your backpack and in your cubby and it's turned off. We're gonna go with the same exact thing next year. If it happens to ring in the backpack, the reasonable thing would be, go turn your phone off, you forgot to turn it off. And that's the end of that. And that is gonna be the hope up here too. We're gonna expect our kids to put them in their lockers, but the truth is, if a kid left it in their car, that would also be fine. If a kid put it in the bottom of their backpack and it was turned off, we wouldn't really know, because we're not checking their backpacks, We're just trusting that they're not using them during the day, and if we see them, then we will address it. Part of this legislation is that a student can't be suspended solely for using a cell phone. I'm hoping that any interactions, and our faculty and staff are wonderful with this, so I'm not concerned in any way, shape, or form, but the hope would be for kids all over Long Island that, interactions about using a cell phone when they're not supposed to be does not result in more punitive behavior and actions, and then consequences. I don't really worry about that here, because our people have relationships with our kids and they're reasonable, so I don't, it would have happened already, quite honestly. And it hasn't happened, so I don't see it being an issue for us, but you're right.
When the whole bring your device thing started years ago, I think they only had one episode where somebody had to be disciplined because of what they did, and then there were no other problems that I know of.
Two of the last couple of years, there were no write-ups for cell phones. And then in one year, there was one, and it was very minimal. I don't think it even incurred what you would consider serious discipline in school or out-of-school suspension. So, again, and listen, that's what we have with all of our instances, you know. Our kids are well-behaved, they're brought up right, they're respectful, our teachers interact with them positively, you know, and that's what I expect from this.
Like you said, I think you took a reasonable approach to drafting out the regulations, and it sounds like it's a non-issue, and compliance is not really going to be a problem with this, so,
That's my hope.
yeah.
Oh, we need a law.
You guys have anything?
Keeps us gainfully employed,
Yeah.
right?
So again, what'd you say?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it really is pretty straightforward. I thought it was going to be, I sat down with it about a week and a half ago, and I thought it was going to be a lot more work than it was. But then as I was going through it, like I was realizing that, you know, there's a bunch of things that you have no purview over. They're dictated. You must give exceptions for this list, you know, and you really can't add to it, nor can you take away from it. So that made it easy. Again, to parents, if you have, you know, if you have any input, we'd love to hear it. You know, all input is good for us. It's nice to hear the perspective of different people. For those parents and those students and those teachers and administrators that have already shared input over the last 18 months to 2 years, thank you, because that, you know, that provided us the ability to really look at, you know, what we were doing when we were putting this together, and you know, that made this process a lot easier also. But I do encourage anybody that has any input they want to share to please share it with us.
Is this going to be on the website?
This will be as soon as, as soon as we do first read at the next, then it will be posted on our website, yes.
Okay, so everybody should read it.
Yeah, yep. You know, we'll encourage everybody, we will communicate through Parent Square that it's up there, and that, you know, and that it is important to read it, you know, so that you know, you and your children, it would be very helpful to us. And again, this is an area where, you know, our parents are wonderful. You know, during the pandemic, when we asked them to have conversations with their kids, our kids came in more aware of things than they did in other places, at least from what my colleagues told me. So, you know, when we send that out, we're going to send it out to our kids and our parents, and we're going to ask them to read it together and have conversations, and so they're aware, because that will also make, you know, the beginnings of this easier. So,
Cool.
all right,
All right.
that's
That's
it.
all I have to say about that. We don't need an adjournment, right? Because it's really.
No.
Well, you do, because you were an exec, so.
Oh, okay. Motion for adjournment?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.